Shift happens, sometimes by choice, sometimes by circumstance. And when it does, you have two options. You can either cling to the life you've outgrown or step into the version of you that knows she's meant for more. I'm Gia Lacqua, trauma-informed empowerment coach and founder of Radical Prioritization. Welcome to What the Shift, the podcast for women who've outgrown the life they've built and are ready to create one that finally fits. Here we get real about the shifts that change everything: identity shifts, career pivots, relationship resets, mindset breakthroughs, and learning how to finally release what's holding you back. You don't have to have it all figured out. Just be ready for what's next. It's time to shift. Hey, it's Gia. Quick check-in. Are you thriving or just functioning at a really high level? If your to-do list is never done, if you're the go-to for everyone else but feel invisible in your own life, if you're exhausted from doing all the things but still feel like it's never enough, you might be overfunctioning. Take 2 minutes and find out. Go to my website, gialacqua.com, and on the homepage, you will find the quiz. I created it for high achievers who are doing too much for too many with too little in return. So this is your wake-up call. Stop surviving and start shifting. All right, let's get into it. If you feel like life is shifting, you're in the right place. I'm Gia Lacqua, and welcome to What the Shift. Today, I am so excited to introduce you to Melissa Lafsky Saleh. She is a force of nature, a former lawyer and journalist turned serial entrepreneur, masterful storyteller, and advocate for survivors of trauma. With a career spanning technology, media, and brand strategy, she has shaped the narratives of Fortune 500 giants and startups alike, helping them carve out their place in a fast-moving world. Melissa, so excited to have you with us today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
So, I know you're in a lot of in the startup world. You've worked with Fortune 500s. Tell us a little bit about where you are today in your journey and what led you to where you are today.
Well, my career journey has not been anything resembling traditional. I have tried. I really have. I've tried to go be an employee in the sort of general corporate world. My first attempt at a career was as a lawyer. I was a corporate lawyer or a litigator briefly in New York City. And I was so miserable. Literally the first week that I got there, I just went, I will die if I tried to do this for 30 years. I know that sounds dramatic, but that was my mindset at that time.
Yeah.
And this was the early 2000s when digital media was just starting to take off, and sites like the Huffington Post and the Drudge Report were starting to take over traditional print media. And there was this new magical thing called WordPress, where you could have these things called blogs, and you didn't have to know how to code. All you had to know how to do, you had to know the bare basics of the internet and how to create a blog, but all you really had to know how to do was brand and write. And I know how to do those things. I late one night with insomnia, wondering how the heck I'm going to get out of this situation that I found myself in. I started a blog, an anonymous blog, about being a young woman lawyer at a fancy white shoe law firm in Manhattan. And it blew up. It became wildly popular. And it was covered in Gawker, which was kind of a big outlet at that time, obviously not anymore. But it was covered in the New York Times, the New York Observer, and it became somewhat of a phenomenon. And I said, oh, this was unexpected. So I managed to transition into a career in digital media and then in print and digital media. And I did that for about a decade. And even there, it's a little bit, I live in LA now, and I have friends who are actors. And the biggest question I always have for them is like, how do you deal with that life? You finish a job and then you have absolutely no idea when the next job is coming, where it's coming from, if it's coming. But that's just your career and your life. How do you deal with that? That was kind of my early digital media career. I had no clue where this was going to go, where opportunities would be. It's not the kind of career where I've ever applied for a job that was posted. The authors of Freakonomics were launching a blog on the New York Times website, which was a radical thing because the New York Times didn't even have a full digital division yet. Blogs were considered this lowly thing at the New York Times. And they called me and they were like, you want to be the first editor of our blog on the New York Times website? And I'm like, sure. So I become this redheaded stepchild in the digital portion of the New York Times. And these traditional, newspaper men and women would, what do you do again? That's not journalism. And I was like, sorry, this is the future. And so I moved on with a career. I went on to Newsweek. I launched their digital edition, and I started to get kind of pigeonholed into the girl that knows technology and loves tech and also can do editorial. And so she'll come in and she'll create the future of our publication, its digital arm. And that was never a winning strategy. Those expectations are not realistic. So I transitioned into tech and into startups because the storytelling that I love to do is so unbelievably relevant in startups. And I love the wildness and the creation of a startup. Like it's like a canvas. It's a form of art if you look at it that way. There's a canvas, which is the market, and then there's the product, and you've got to put all the pieces together. What's the best way to brand this? What's the best way to release this product?
And tell the story, right?
Tell the story. Who are the people? What is the story of this product? What is the story of this founder or this company? And then what is the story of the people who need this product and who are going to use it? The most important story.
Yep.
And so I love that work. And so I started my own company and deep in the sort of lean in era. I was like, I control my own destiny and I have this set of skills and the market needs them. So I'm going to start my own company. And I did in 2013. And it was a content strategy firm. And it worked with early stage startups. It worked with individual thought leaders who had platforms. And then we had Citibank as a client. Google briefly as a short-term client. I mean, it was, we ran the gamut. And then I had a horrific trauma that brought all of it to zero. It brought my entire life to zero. And that set me on this really 10-year journey of going to zero and then having to rebuild brick by brick, cell by cell. And go on this incredible quest to become a mother and also to become a founder in the way that I want to be. Because that last part is very important. If you want to become a founder, you may look around and say, I see pathways to becoming a founder, but those pathways may not be right for me. There are ways that are right for you.
Absolutely. Wow. What an incredible story. So much to dive into. I guess a couple of things I just want to acknowledge about what you first said. In the beginning of your journey, you went to school to become an attorney. You started in the corporate world as an attorney and realized very quickly that this was not for me. And I think a lot of us have that feeling either in the beginning or a couple of years in that I'm not sure this is what I want to do with the rest of my life. Some of us takes a little longer to get there, but thankfully you recognized that early and weren't afraid to pivot, because I think many of us are afraid to pivot once you've invested the time and the money and the energy. You got the degree, you got the job, you got the suit, right? And now what? And that can be very scary.
What you just said is the single biggest reason that many women don't have their dream career. And look, I am in it too. I have not conquered every fear. I am finally stepping into being the founder that I want to be, not being the person behind some man or creating someone else's founder journey, but no, me.
Yeah.
And the product that I believe in and the brand that I know I can create and the culture and all of it. And it has been burning inside of me. And I have been facing fear.
Yeah.
So it's not like it just goes away. Men in Silicon Valley, look, I've been embedded with a lot of men in Silicon Valley. So I've learned a lot from them. They're useful. I've learned a lot. And a lot of them talk about, well, it's all a simulation. This is all a simulation. This life, blah, blah, blah. Maybe not, but it is useful to think about it in terms of we're all playing a game and we're all individual players. And if you want to get to the next level being a way of making money that it feels more true to you, a career that feels more true to you, a specific goal, a motherhood, whatever it is, you're going to have to break through that wall. And that wall is usually fear.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And getting over the fear, I think, is the single biggest thing for women. And I don't have the perfect answer other than for me, I have always, I recently did an interview with a man named David Meltzer. He's a sort of social media and internet personality who does like, he's also a sales coach. And he said something to me that really hit home. And he said, the thing about you is that your purpose is always greater than your pain. And purpose, it can mean many things. Sometimes it's just, I have such an inability to stay in a bad situation. I just don't have it. It does not exist. I cannot stay in a non-working situation. As soon as I see that it's not working, I must change it. And I will overcome fear because that sense is just, I can't sleep. I can't anything until I have changed it. So I don't know where that comes from. That's just me.
But that must be a gift in many ways.
A gift. It's not easy to live with. It's not easy to see. And like you have to learn also how to tune out everybody else's voice. That is kind of a gift that trauma gives you because trauma separates you from everybody. It really does. It isolates you in this world, particularly in this society where people are so afraid of something horrible happening. I just, I have two beautiful, perfect children now. And I took my 4.5-year-old to a birthday party this weekend. And this poor birthday boy had a fall and it was horrific. Blood everywhere. Paramedics called. Terrible accident. He's okay, thank God. The people's faces, all these adults, and they're all high powered, this and that, they were just so frozen and terrified. And I went, oh, when there's a fire, you leap in. This child is at risk of trauma. You leap in and you do what is needed. You do not turn away from the trauma. You do not go watch it silently. You figure out what is needed and you step in.
Face it.
And that is not something that is taught in our culture.
No.
So if you're the person going through the trauma, it's horrific and very isolating. And it gives you this superpower, which is, okay, I no longer need any of you and I no longer care what you think. And that is it was a horrible lesson to learn. It was brutal and awful. And it gives you unbelievable freedom. Because I don't consult 5 people. I don't ask the universe. Well, I might ask the universe, but I don't put it on social media. I do my life and I don't give a, I don't know if I can swear on this podcast. I don't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks because they are not on my journey. They have not been through the trauma that I have been through and they are not living my life. So the trauma gives you that if you can come through it on the other side, which is not easy. And I know there's no right or wrong way to do your life post-trauma. If you can get there though, you've got some superpowers. And everybody has these superpowers. You don't have to go through trauma to get them. But for me, that was how I learned to access them.
Yeah, it was a catalyst.
It was a massive catalyst.
Yeah. Yeah. And I hear that often. But not everybody's able to embrace it, like you said, and come and do the work and come out that other side.
Well, not everyone chooses to. And there's it's not like you're doing trauma wrong. No, that is not, this is my path. I always say that, look, what happened is, just for your listeners, I was a week away from my due date with my first child. I had been through several early miscarriages. I'd finally gotten pregnant. And during the pregnancy, it became very clear my first husband had gone from problem drinker to full-blown alcoholic. But I was like, this baby's coming. You don't stop this train. We'll figure it out afterwards. I go into labor. I labored all night. I go to the hospital and I'm alone. And the doctors tell me, yes, you are about to have a baby and she has just died. And there was no explanation. They never found a reason. Autopsy is done, tests done. They never found a clear reason. Her heart simply stopped. And there was nothing that anyone could do. I couldn't say goodbye. I mean, there was just nothing. And then they told me, you must deliver her now or your life could be in danger too. And the analogy that I use to describe that day is picture my soul as a glass bottle. It was dropped from a 5th-story balcony, and what you see on the ground is what my soul looked like after that day. And the rest of my life systematically fell down around me over the next year and a half. I had held the marriage together with duct tape because I was so convinced that the only thing that would redeem my life at all would be having another baby. And I did. About a year and a half later, I did get pregnant again, and in the early 2nd trimester, lost that pregnancy as well. And then that was rock bottom. I said, that is enough. I knew the marriage was over. I knew that New York City, my home of 13 years, and that it had been my whole identity and where I had built my life, and we were done. It was over. I gave away most of my possessions on a Brooklyn stoop. I had to shut down my company. I was so burned out. I cleaned out the storage unit on Atlantic Avenue that had all of my daughter's never used things. And I drove out of the 5 boroughs at 6 a.m. And I just said, I have absolutely no idea. I was 38 years old, 37. I have absolutely no idea where my life is going. And I guess this is what it is. And I guess there's a journey here. So I guess we're going on it. And I made my way to Charleston, South Carolina, where through a series of events, I wound up owning a house. And I treated that house as sort of an under the Tuscan sun moment where I became nobody. My friends, my community, my professional network, all basically had gone to zero. No real family ties, like nothing. The phone was not ringing. I was nobody. I'm in a city where no one knows me. My life is at zero. But I had this house. So I put my love and the last of my then money into renovating and fixing up this house and into rejuvenating my body and soul through food, through nature, through gentle exercise, just kind of relearning how to love myself. And from there, I get this call out of the blue from a couple guys I knew who had their own agency. And they said, we've just signed this big contract with Facebook. We don't know how to fulfill it. You want to go out there? And I was like, sure, I'll try it out. So cut to me at a conference room in Facebook with Mark Zuckerberg's team and some of the heads of communications team. And I wound up signing a contract to work with them to elevate their storytelling and their public narrative around their social good and their community's focus. This was in 2016 and 2017. Obviously, they've gone a very different direction now, but that's tech. And so, boom, now I'm this Silicon Valley girl, obviously still deeply traumatized. I was still suffering from PTSD. I was going through a divorce. I was still a wreck, but I was just well enough to get it done for Facebook and handle Silicon Valley. I wasn't okay, but I was well enough to do that. From there, I made it down to LA, and we had talked about this briefly before we were recording, and you had asked, well, why did you move to LA? And the simple answer is that I felt good there. I just felt good. When I went down there, my body felt good. And I said, you know what? I have felt bad for so many years that I notice when I feel good. So this place, I feel good. I'm going to move here. I had no other quote unquote logic reason, rational reason. Nope. I did not do any of that. I didn't have a job. I didn't know anyone. I didn't have a plan. I simply said, I feel good here and I'm going to follow my gut. I'm going to follow my intuition. And we were talking about intuitive decision making. It is one of the biggest superpowers that anyone has and that women have in particular. I firmly believe women, it's not that we have better intuition than men, but we are more inclined to intuitive awareness than many men. Not everything is gender normative, obviously. Gender is a spectrum and there can be many different types of masculinity, femininity. But for women, we have strong intuition and we're told, it's kind of beaten out of us. We're told like, oh, no, you need to make rational decisions and you need to make decisions based on data and logic. Those are great. No one's saying they're not. Intuition, I read a philosopher who said, intuition is the supra logic that takes you directly from the question to the answer. So it's not like woo-woo magic. It's simply another way of accessing information, accessing answers
It's like a
to
sixth sense.
exactly
Mm-hmm.
access answering an unknown question that otherwise, look, again, like working in Silicon Valley, I will say something intuitively, and all the men will look, not all the men, but many men will look at me and they'll be like, how would you know? How do you know that's the right answer? Show me the data. Show me the market research. Show me the financial spreadsheets.
Yeah.
Show me what does ChatGPT say? Show me 5 other people. Show me, where that's in peer-reviewed scientific studies. And I'm like, I can't, because I don't have any of those things. But what I just said is correct anyway. It's right. And then they either listen or they don't, and we go along, and it's right. So I have enough data here. I do. Intuition may not be like 100% always. And intuition, I want to stress, it also comes with your own genius, for lack of a better word. Like some women are intuitive geniuses about growing food or creating food. Some women are intuitive geniuses about structuring M&A deals. Like your intuition can be applied to anything, and it's usually going to be something that you've studied a lot. I don't have the best intuition right now about commodities training because I haven't really, like I could, all of us could.
Sure.
I'm going to stress, like commodities trading is not above any of us. That's another thing for women. I think we're kind of told like, oh, don't play in that. You don't know about commodities. It's not that complicated. Really not. Like when you break it down, I just haven't studied it that much. So my intuition, I would need to do a little work and then sort of marry that with my intuition if I wanted to start commodities trading, which any woman could do. It's just that intuition, we're told that it doesn't, that's silly and that's not real. Yeah, not true. Absolutely not true. Ask Steve Jobs. I know he's passed on, but Steve Jobs he would always say, I don't have a college degree. I was not a good student. I don't study. Steve Jobs famously didn't do market research. He didn't do any of the sort of traditional, I think this product might be big in the market. Let's go figure it out. No. You know what he trained in? Intuitive decision-making, intuitive thinking, and transcendental meditation.
Incredible.
He's very open about this.
Incredible. So there's so much there I want to dive into, Melissa. First, I just going back to, thank you for sharing your story. I know it's deeply personal. And I guess my question for you would be, how do you believe that your trauma has shaped the woman you are today?
I mean, how has it not? I like to say, I'm not a different person. I'm me. It burned off everything. It really is you walk through fire and then you come out. It burned off everything that wasn't me. It burned off anything. And that's not just, it burned off a lot of the fear too. It burned off all the things that society tells you should be. It burned off a lot of sort of social constructs and beliefs. I just don't believe most of the things that our culture tells us anymore because they aren't true. It has made me such a powerful advocate for myself because I went through the trauma. I wasn't entirely alone. I did have some amazing friends, but through the bulk of it, I was alone, which most people, when you go through like a very deep dark night of the soul, you're going to go through a lot of it alone. And that just left me with this total sense of like, I love my own company. I don't need approval from other people. I don't need validation. What I care about in this life are the results that I produce. What are the results? Have I produced healthy children? Yes, I have. And I should say, intuitive decision making, I biohacked and reset my fertility successfully. So I went on after many losses. I've been pregnant 7 times, but at 42 and 43, I got pregnant entirely naturally, almost not accidentally, but like entirely naturally, and had 2 completely beautiful, healthy babies. Natural. Western medicine said that was impossible. Not impossible. I did it all. I did not have fertility doctors or fertility assistants. I did it all with intuitive decision making and biohacking, which is, using yourself as a data point. All right, I would read this and then, okay, I'll try it. Let's see what happens. I'll read this. Does it feel good to my body? I'm using intuitive sort of assessments and decision making. I'm not going for blood draws, and I'm not taking, follicle enhancing, blah, 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 but I am doing this and I'm doing that. And then I'm seeing how it feels in my body. It worked. It worked almost too well because I had 2 babies in the span of 2 years. And then I'm, 43 with a brand new startup in a new partnership with 2 under 2. So that was brutal too. So it's
a third baby.
I mean, you go on these journeys and you're like, yay, I've made it up Everest. And then you're like, oh my God, and this is so hard. And now there's a bigger Everest that I have to climb that's right there. What?
Sure.
Like, no one told me that, but that's part of this whole deal. And you don't have to live this way. I just want to stress, like, nobody has to live this way. If you are like, I like my job, I like the status quo, I like my life, comfortable, and I don't feel like facing every fear, that's okay. You are providing incredible value in this world. Not everybody has to live like me. I wouldn't have chosen this. It's just, this is what I got. So I take it and I go, all right, how do I win this next level? But that trauma really, like, that journey, as hard and horrific and brutal as it was, nobody can take away from me what I know that I did and what I know that I got through.
Yeah.
And nobody can take away from me my now very honed intuitive decision-making skills. And in the startup world and business world, that's a superpower.
For sure. So, and that's incredible because it sounds like you said it burned off the layers of the societal conditioning, the cultural conditioning that women are raised with, and it got you back to your core in some ways, and then brought out this superpower of intuitive decision making, which I absolutely love. And it sounds like that applies very strongly in not only the professional work that you do, but also in your personal life, which I love. Tell us, so many, many, many high achieving women over time, for various reasons, we become very disconnected from ourselves, from our bodies, from our intuition. I know I did for many years. I disregarded it. So what would you say to those women? How do you get back in touch with or in tune to, right? If you haven't gone through a trauma, how can we get back in tune with our intuition?
That's a great question. I mean, I think nowadays the cultural conversation is moving much more to this, being able to hear it.
Yeah.
And it's a quiet voice.
Yes.
It's a quiet voice, and it's never loud and it's never afraid. So if you're hearing fear, if you're hearing warning, 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 it's not intuition, it's fear. And again, there's nothing wrong with fear. It doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you, like, honestly, we're looking at our society right now would be very different if men would admit how afraid they are. Certain men right now, they're very, very afraid of death, and everything that they're doing, I'm like, oh boy, dude, you're really afraid of death. But doing that to this country is not going to stop you from dying. So, what's the best way? I mean, it's kind of a personal journey, but like, you got to get quiet. You got to find a way to get quiet. And honestly, get the heck off social media, get the heck off of the noise. A big part of going through trauma recovery was I unfriended 3,000 people. I went to almost nothing on social media. I unfollowed. I don't really, I follow a few human beings now, but what I really follow are like things that bring me joy, that uplift me. So sure. Beautiful locations, beautiful animal photography, and beautiful fashion, and anything that if I look at it, it's going to uplift me. If it in any way drains me or brings me down, boom, we're done, unfollowed. And the thing about algorithms, I'm an AI entrepreneur. And the thing about algorithms that Meta has gotten very, very good at, and this is an internal memo recently from Meta was leaked that stated this, If you like 10 things on Instagram, that Instagram algorithm will know you better than your very close friends. If you like 50 to 100 things on Instagram, that algorithm will know you better than you know yourself. Because it's pattern matching and not because you are, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that as human beings, yes, we are all individuals and we are all living our individual life. And we're all machines that run on kind of the same machinery.
Sure.
So we follow patterns, and human life follows patterns, and algorithms are incredible pattern recognizers and pattern matchers. They are incredible at this. So these algorithms will know you better than you know yourself, and they'll start serving you things that you might be ready for without even having known that you were ready for. So change up. Honestly, just dive into your life and start making change. Start Marie Kondo's principles apply to everything in life. They apply, yes, of course, they apply to your house and all of that, your car, your wardrobe, your social media accounts, your emails. Who has access to you? Who has make yourself into this temple so that your intuition can come in clearly. Yeah. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
So, really, and the biggest word there that for every woman, and this has been a huge lesson for me, boundaries. You don't have a right to me. You don't have a right to my time. No one has a right to my time, my body, my skills. Nobody. And I was not raised that way. And that was not how I was living at all. I was just leaking everywhere because I felt that, well, I guess that's my role as a woman. And I won't survive otherwise. And I have to do that in order to get love, or I have to do that in order to get new clients, or I have to whatever. Absolutely not. I have shut that down. I've honestly gone almost a little too far the other direction, where I build these walls and I'm like, nobody can get through and now I'm like, okay, you got to take down
There's a happy medium. But that's an important life lesson. Yeah. And I love what you said about the analogy of, what you're doing on social media to protect your time and energy, which is really important. Are you practicing that in real life with your boundaries of unsubscribe, unfollow? I'm no longer talking to this person. Yes. I'm no longer going to this group, right? Or whatever that is. Yes. I think it's really powerful.
And going through the trauma gave me it kind of just gave me our constant RSVP card. Like, no, I'm not doing that. Yeah. I'm not doing that. Oh, you don't like it? Have you been through what I've been through? No? Okay, well, buzz off.
Yeah.
My motherhood journey has been like, no. And I'm not saying mine's so much. There are many women who have had it worse. Like, this is a horror show right now.
But you're so grounded in your values. You're so grounded in your purpose and your passion and what's meaningful to you.
And yes, absolutely. And I'm so grounded in I am my champion.
Yeah.
Because no one stood up. Nobody else stood up. Nobody. So I said, okay, I deserve a champion. Yeah. And I guess it's going to be me. And so I'm my own champion. No, men are not my champion. Men are wonderful. They help. And, we can't really, I don't think we can do it without them. And it's time for them to maybe take a little more of a back seat, if you get my meaning. That's for another time, perhaps. I always say women are not superior to men. I don't believe anyway. I don't think women are inherently superior beings to men.
Sure.
The most horrific pain and betrayal I've ever experienced has been by women. It's not been by men. I've had some horrific abuse and betrayal by men too, but like the worst things that I am like, I can't even believe a human being would do that. Women. That being said, women, we're a spectrum just like men. There are great men and there are not great men. There are great women and there are not great women. Women fundamentally lead differently than men. Yes. We lead differently. And the world needs that leadership right now. It just does. It just does. So, okay, women, it's our time. It's not that like we're superior. It's just, hey, men, you've had your friggin' turn. You've had your friggin' turn for millennia. Step aside. It's time to share. I'm teaching my kids this. They're 4.5 and 3. It's time to share. You've had your turn.
And they're watching. They're watching. Yeah. And lead with the intuitive awareness and decision-making.
Intuitive awareness, decision-making, much less ego. Not trying to say women don't have ego. but like much less ego. The point, when a woman takes power, it's rarely, well, now I will keep power forever. That's just I don't know a single woman that's like, well, my goal is to just be the queen forever and ever and ever, and everyone is my subject and servant. The vast majority of women who lead, that's not, even if you do feel that at one point, you grow out of it.
Yeah.
Or you burn out, because as women, we are built differently, physiologically, all of it. So we lead differently.
I love that message. That's incredible. Melissa, just before we wrap up, what do you want people to know about grief and healing?
Whew. I mean, the biggest thing I'll say, I talk a lot about trauma transcendence, because that's really been my journey. How do I was written off. She's done. She's done. Her life is over. She's damaged. She's this, she's that. And I went, hold my beer. Like, just watch me. I mean, that's another thing in my personality. It's always been that way. My younger daughter's that way too. And believe me, I'm getting it back now. But like, you tell me I can't do something, and I'm like, watch me. Those doctors who are like, you will never, you'll be on PTSD medication for life and you'll never carry. And I did it. Right. Trauma transcendence is what I have focused on, which is I no longer have PTSD. I was able to bring 2 healthy daughters into the world. They are physically, emotionally, mentally healthy and regulated and all the things. Those were all huge transcendence over those accomplishments required transcending the trauma. You don't transcend the grief. I will never transcend it, because the grief is the love. Yeah. I will never transcend the love. That was my first, she's my first child. She's my first child. So there will be no transcendence of the grief. I just scattered her ashes at a beautiful place in Charleston. And on her birthday, I didn't want to go to a grave. I didn't want to go to a graveyard. But on her birthday, I go to this very beautiful place and I honor her. She's my first child forever. And I grieve. And at Christmas, which is funny because I'm Jewish, but I did grow up somewhat celebrating Christmas. I grieve for Christmas. The grief is there. It's just there. And you have to, you're just sort of tasked with recognizing it as the love and allowing it, and not telling any kind of story about I shouldn't be feeling this way, or I have to hide this. Like, no, this is my grief. Yes. That is my love for my first child. And I will love her my entire life. And I'm proud of that. I will never not love her. So grief is one of the most beautiful experiences of being human. And never let anyone tell you that, well, you shouldn't get over it. It's been so long ago. This culture really loves to do that. It's like, why can't you love someone in this culture? Why can't you love them even if they are no longer alive? What is wrong with that? What is wrong with us, Fred? Like, it's time for our culture to grow up a little bit. And that's a big, big place where I think we could grow up a little bit. When someone is grieving, that is sacred.
Yes.
Like, there are certain things, whether you are religious or not. I am a Jewish woman. I had my children with an Arab Muslim man. I am not about religion. I am about who are you at your core, your spiritual beliefs, and what do you do that is good for humanity? What do you do that is good for this world, this simulation, whatever you believe? We need to hold something sacred. And grief is one of them. And motherhood is another one. And childbearing is another one. Where have we lost the sacredness in that? Women are doing sacred work. They are not doing work when they are bearing children and raising children that should de-rank them from the workforce. How dare you? How dare you, corporate world? How dare you? Like, that is just, you want to look at it from a purely cynical perspective. Hey, corporate world, do you know what you need to continue to exist? More consumers. Who's providing them? We are.
Yeah.
So, maybe if the only way to get through to you is your pocketbook, maybe you should start looking at it that way. Why do you think a certain administration is now trying to create policies to get women to have more children? Is it because they truly give it? I don't want to get into politics, but no, they see what I'm saying. If you want America to continue as a capitalist hub, you need consumers. Who's going to provide them? Who's going to make them? Us. So maybe you should start holding us a little more sacred.
Yeah. And so many women that I've spoken to over the years, as you alluded to earlier, motherhood makes you a stronger leader and vice versa, right? Like it just complements one another and we need to look at it.
You are absolutely right. I mean, startups, I'm just like, startups are like parenting. How do
Yeah.
you people not see what it takes to co-create a life and bring it into the, and, birth it into this world.
Totally.
And then just as you don't mother a 1-year-old the same way you mother a 5-year-old, you don't run a 1-year-old company the same way you run a 5-year-old company. They have different needs. They're at a different level of maturation. It's a different, like, duh.
Yeah.
How is this so revelatory?
Yeah.
Really, guys? Come on. This is so obvious.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. So, Melissa, what would you say is the one shift that changed everything for you?
That's a really hard question.
I know it's a big question because you reinvented yourself more than once. So I know you've been through your own journey professionally and personally. What comes top of mind for you?
Well, like, I'm just trying to come up with an answer that's satisfactory. What is the biggest shift? Saying everything that I have been told and taught, I'm just going to assume that it's not correct and that it's not right for me. And I'm going to clear that slate. And I'm going to see where it goes for me. I'm a big believer in the concept of zone of genius. This is a big, the workplace. You can operate in your zone of incompetence, your zone of competence, your zone of excellence, or your zone of genius. As women, I believe, have an enormous amount of untapped zone of genius that we are not, it's beaten out of us. We are not taught to access it. We are not taught to even know that it's there or to believe that it has any monetary value or value in this world. Guess what? Our zones of genius absolutely do. It may be knitting and creating beautiful knitwear. It may be building driverless cars. It may be so many things. Women's zones of genius can span everything in this world. It could be creating artificial general intelligence. Women need to be the ones creating AI. Full stop. Women need to be the ones creating AI. A wide variety of women, not one type of woman, not a wide variety. Women need to be the decision makers. The hands to keyboard, the ones saying we're going this direction with this product, not that, like, full stop. I guess that's the zone of genius is like you're into it in your gut. Your zone of genius, your gut knows it. Your body knows it. Your body will guide you to it. So look for that, look for your zone of genius and follow that because that's what guides all of my career decisions. Because I'm like, where my money is, my zone of genius, the real money for me. Not, some career plan or some corporate blah, blah, blah. I mean, that's the other big thing is I've just never believed that following a corporate path was going to be a good path for me. That path, I'm a systems thinker. And if you're going to enter a system, in the corporate world is a system, you have to look at who created that system. Who does that system serve? Why does that system exist? And then you have to look at, okay, well, who am I in this system? That system was not built for us. It was not built to serve us. It was not built to empower and enrich us. It was not built to elevate us. So if you're going to be in the system, nothing wrong with that. But caveat emptor, you are working in a system that was not built for you. So just be aware and make the system work for you until it doesn't. And if it stopped working for you, go follow your zone of genius.
Yes. And how do we rebuild that system too? If you are committed to staying on that path, it's how do we,
women's companies.
Yeah.
Men have proven time and time again that they do not hand over power unless they are so old and infirm that the culture demands it. And I think we just saw a major example of that. And I was very heartened to see it, but men don't hand over power. They don't go, let me hand you the golden ticket.
Yeah.
Oh, let me hand you the CEO role. Sure. No, they do not. Okay, great. There are two things we can do. We can either fight with the men to take over. That sounds very exhausting, quite frankly. Or we go create our own companies and create our own markets and focus in on women's money, women's wealth, women's value. And we just kind of quietly take over. And that honestly sounds pretty great to me.
I love it. I love it. Such great insights. Melissa, this has been an incredible conversation. Thank you for being on the show, for sharing your insights, your expertise, and your story with us here today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And if our listeners want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Well, right now they call it stealth mode. I'm getting my next company. It's, it's like when you're pregnant and you don't want to tell everybody. It's literally like that for me anyway.
Yeah.
That's what it's like.
You're in the first trimester.
Yeah. And like, I got to decorate the baby's room and I got to, what are the names? And it's kind of like that for me. I love that part. But so I'm quiet. I'm not like super out there. But I am on social media. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me at melissasaleh.com. You can find me on Instagram. I'm not super active, but look, like I'm cooking things up in my lab. So there will be plenty more to talk about in the coming months.
Love it. And I can't wait to see what comes next.
Thank you.
So thanks everyone for tuning in today. We will see you next week. Now go make shift happen. Take care. All right, Shifter, that's a wrap on today's episode of What the Shift. But here's the thing. Awareness is just the first step. The real shift happens when you decide to do something with it. So before you go back to business as usual, ask yourself, what is one thing you are done carrying? What's one shift you're ready to make? And if this episode hit home, don't keep it to yourself. Hit subscribe, leave a review, and send it to a woman who needs to hear this, because we shift together. Remember, you don't have to have it all figured out. You just have to take the next step. And I'll be right here next week, ready to shift with you. This is What the Shift, and we are just getting started.